and new legislation today to protect transgender people in Canada. This news comes on the 1-year anniversary of the Transgender Rights Bill. You'll remember that Premier Justin Trudeau made the announcement during the mostly peaceful Transgender Day of Vengeance last year.
I'm proud to announce that tomorrow, on the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, we will be tabling a bill in the House of Commons to ensure the full protection of transgender people.
Wise words from Justine there, and tune in tomorrow for more unbiased coverage.
It's a really weird, wild world out there right now in terms of, what we can say, the freedoms of speech, the things that we can criticize, the people that we can criticize, and it's getting a little too much for me. And this new law proposing fines up to $25,000 and placing a football-sized safe zone around any and all drag shows is absolute insanity. With all of the problems, with all of the issues going on in the world today, all of the we've got everything. We've got these people ODing in the streets like crazy. We've got nonstop people getting like poked with sharp objects. We've got obviously everything going on in the Ukraine. We've got, gas prices, inflation. This is what lawmakers are worried about. Protecting drag queens from criticism. Again, criticism, mean words leading up to a $25,000 fine. I am not kidding. Make sure you leave a like on this video right now and you subscribe to help fight against this insanity. Now, a new bill has been proposed to protect Drag Story Hour for children. If passed, the measure would create a football-sized 2S LGBTQIA plus community safe zone around drag shows and other LGBT events in Ontario. Anyone who protests within the zone will be subject to a $25,000 fine under this new legislation. That's just for protesting. This stuff is going everywhere. It's coming everywhere. It's coming to the United States. We see essentially what the right is doing in terms of the legislation that they're passing. It's similar in theme. Obviously, the opposite result. But we see many conservative politicians pushing this issue, pushing to protect kids and things of that nature, things that most people would agree with, but still on this topic and not the bigger picture. The culture battle is, in many cases, a distraction. It can feel like it's the most important thing in the world, and there's always this common pushback where it's like, oh, we can focus on multiple things at one time. Yeah, but people really can't. It's like one or two things. That's why people are called, one issue, two issue voters. People usually have one or two issues that they use to cast the most important vote of, the most important decision they can make in terms of the way the country goes. It comes down to one or two things. Okay. Quote, any phobic, active intimidation, or offensive threats or remarks or offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of propaganda would be prohibited by law if the bill passes. Sponsor Kristen Wong-Tam said Tuesday in a press conference. Wong-Tam has represented the Toronto Centre for Legislative Assembly of Ontario since last year, uses the pronouns they, them, and reportedly identifies as, of course, non-binary. Joining Wong-Tam for the press conference were a wizard, a witch, two drag queens, two people wearing masks, a white woman, a white man, a child, and of course, a disabled minority. Quote, drag artists face threats and intimidation all across Ontario. And again, I don't know how much more clear I could be about this. I find absolutely, positively nothing wrong with drag shows and people participating in them and adults attending them. Where I have a problem is these story times and these all ages shows and things of that nature. It's wrong. Everybody agrees it's wrong, but they keep pushing. They keep pushing it and pushing it on parents. And yes, by the way, let's not forget that the parents that are bringing their kids to these events absolutely positively bear some responsibility here. They're the ones that are bringing their kids to these events. I mean, I think CPS in the United States is one of the worst agencies, the worst arms of the government imaginable. But boy, if I was ever going to think about visiting somebody, it might be somebody who's willing to take their kid to events like this. And again, drag is in and of itself also kind of a spicy presentation. It's it can be toned down, I imagine. I'm no expert in it, but I feel like it's pretty universally accepted that we can just keep kids out of it. And now you're talking about massive fines for the simple act of protesting it. Drag artists face threats and intimidation all across Ontario over the past year. Wong Tam, a member of the Ontario New Democratic Party, said in a press release, businesses and the 2SLGBTQIA+ community members are being told that they can't be out and proud from Thunder Bay to Hamilton. You can be out and proud, just stay away from kids. Seems pretty simple. They obviously have a recent history of woke legislation, a new law passed last year that requires parents, pastors, counselors, friends, and others to affirm somebody's gender identity, gender expression, or orientation, or face jail time. In America, drag shows are a key component of radical gender ideology. In 2021, a children's show on PBS featured drag queen and author Little Miss Hot Mess singing and dancing and reading a book about drag queens to the intended audience of 3 to 8-year-olds. The Smithsonian Art Museum hosted a Pride Family Day event over the summer featuring, quote, age-appropriate drag queen shows for kids 3 and up. Republican lawmakers in states including Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and Arizona have proposed bills to prohibit these shows, again, for children. I mean, if we can't agree, this is the problem with people and their being on their ideological lines, right? Can we just agree on like the very simple thing that like these are, I mean, you don't let kids into gentlemen's clubs, right? That you have to be a certain age to go there. Some of them are 21 if they serve or 18 if they don't. There's a reason for that. And some of these shows, some of these performers are just as spicy, just as, orientated towards adults. Again, let's not forget that the parents face some level of, scrutiny, in my opinion, for bringing their kids there. You see, of course, Drag Queen Story Hour is explicitly designed to re-engineer child's orientations and create a site of queer pleasure between adult male transvestites and young children. I did a deep dive for the City Journal here. This is via Christopher F. Rufo. Always excellent coverage. And this is obviously a really deep dive here, and I want to give him credit for it. So I'm not going to go too deep into it. But he says the real story behind these story hours. We know it is, Drag Queen Story Hour, in which performers in drag read books to kids in library, schools, and bookstores, have become a cultural flashpoint. The political right has denounced these performances as being inappropriate, while the political left has defended them as an expression of pride. But see, again, can we just leave the kids out of it? Is it that wild and wacky and crazy guy? Is it that wild to just want to leave the kids out of it? To fight your culture war, but maybe not, force kids to have parts of their body removed to totally pwn the Republicans? Concerns are justified, but to mount an effective opposition, one must first understand the spicy politics behind the glitter sequins and heels. This requires a working knowledge of the extensive history of the origins of the first queen of drag in the late 19th century to development of an academic queer theory, which provides the intellectual foundation for the modern drag for kids movement. They may appear as a comic figure, but he carries an utterly serious message: the deconstruction of gender, the reconstruction of child's orientations, and the subversion of the middle-class family life. The ideology that drives this movement was born in the hookup dungeons of San Francisco and incubated in the academy. It is now being transmitted with official state support in a number of public libraries and schools across the United States. By excavating the foundations of this ideology and sifting through the literature of its activists, parents, and citizens can finally understand the new spicified politics and formulate a strategy for resisting it. This whole, situation obviously is, bad. But now we're going to make protesting illegal. We're going to saddle people with gigantic fines. Hard no. Make sure you leave a like on this video, and if you haven't yet, please do subscribe and spread the word. Help fight the good fight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.